The Life of Mr. Thomas Hobbes of Malmesbury. In 1588, old style, when that armada did invade our isle, called the Invincible, whose freight was then nothing but murdering steel and murdering men, most of which navy was dispersed or lost, and had the fate to perish on our coast. April the 5th, though now with age outworn, in the early spring, I, a poor worm, was born. In Malmesbury baptized, and named there by my own father, then a minister. Many things worth relating had this town, and first a monastery of renown, and castle, or two rather it may seem, on a hill seated with a double stream. Almost environed, from whence still are sent 2 burgesses to sit in Parliament. Here lie the bones of noble Athelstane, whose stone effigies does there remain, who for reward gave them the neighboring plains, which he had moistened with the blood of Danes. Here was the Roman Muse by Adam brought. Here also the first Latin schola was taught. My native place I'm not ashamed to own. The ill times and ills born with me I bemoan. For fame had rumored that a fleet at sea would cause our nation's catastrophe. And hereupon it was my mother dear did bring forth twins at once, both me and fear. For this my country's foes I e'er did hate, with calm peace and my muse associate. Did learn to speak 4 languages, to write and read them too, which was my sole delight. 6 years in the Greek and Latin tongue I spent, and at 14 I was to Oxford sent. And there, of Magdalen Hall admitted, I myself to logic first did then apply, and sedulously I my tutor heard, who gravely read, although he had no beard. Barbara, Celerent, Darai, Ferio, Baralipton, these modes had the first figure, then goes on. Caesare, Chamistres, Festino, Barocco, Derapti, this hath of modes the same variety. Philopton, Desamus, Datisi, Bocardo, Pharisson, these just so many modes are looked upon, which I, though slowly learn, and then dispense with them, and prove things after my own sense. Then physics read, and my tutor displayed, how all things were of form and matter made. The airy particles, which make forms we see, both visible and audible, to be, the effects of sympathy, antipathy, and many things above my reach taught me. Therefore, more pleasant studies I then sought, which I was formerly, though not well taught. My fancy and my mind divert I do, with maps celestial and terrestrial too. Rejoice to accompany soul clothed with rays. Know by what art he measures out our days. How Drake and Cavendish a girdle made, quite round the world, what climates they surveyed, and strive to find the smaller cells of men, and painted monsters in their unknown den. Nay, there's a fullness in geography, for nature e'er abhorred vacuity. Thus in due time took I my first degree of bachelor in the university. Then Oxford left, served Candish known to be a noble and conspicuous family. Our college rector did me recommend, where I most pleasantly my days did spend. Thus youth tutor to youth, for he was still under command and at his father's will. Served him full 20 years, who proved to be not a lord only, but a friend to me. That my life's sweetest comfort was, and made my slumbers pleasant in night's darkest shade. Thus I at ease did live, of books, whilst he did with all sorts supply my library. Then I our own historians did peruse, Greek, Latin, and conversed too with my muse. Homer and Virgil, Horace, Sophocles, Plautus, Euripides, Aristophanes. I understood, nay more, but of all these, there's none that pleased me like Thucydides. He says democracy's a foolish thing, then a republic wiser is one king. This author I taught English, that even he a guide to rhetoricians might be. To foreign countries at that time did I travel, saw France, Italy, Germany. This debonair lord, the Earl of Devonshire, I served complete the space of 20 year. His life by sickness conquered, fled away, to exchange it for a better the last day. But yet, provided ere he did for me, who lived with little most contentedly. I left my pleasant mansion, went away to Paris, and there 18 months did stay. Thence to be tutor I'm called back again, to my lord's son, the Earl of Devon then. This noble lord I did instruct, when young, both how to speak and write the Roman tongue, and by what arts the rhetor deceives those that are illiterate, taught him verse and prose, the mathematic precepts too, with all the windings in the globe terrestrial, the whole design of law, and how he must judge between that which equal is and just. 7 years to him these arts I did explain. He quickly learnt, and firmly did retain. We spent not all this time in books alone, unless you'll take the world for to be one. Traveled through Italy and France, did view the sweet retirements of Savoy too. Whether on horse, in coach, or ship, still I was most intent on my philosophy. One only thing in the world seemed true to me, though several ways that falsified be. One only true thing, the basis of all those things whereby we anything do call. How sleep does fly away, and what things still, by optics I can multiply at will. Fancies internal, the issue of our brain, the internal parts only motion contain, and he that studies physics first must know what motion is, and what motion can do. To matter, motion, I myself apply, and thus I spend my time in Italy. I scribbled nothing o'er, nor than e'er wrought. I ever had a mistress that me taught. Then leaving Italy, return we do to Paris, and its stately fabrics view. Here with Mercenus I acquainted grew, showed him of motion what I ever knew. He both praised and approved it, and so, sir, I was reputed a philosopher. 8 months elapsed, I returned, and thought good for to connect whate'er I understood, that principles at second hand more clear by their concatenation might appear. To various matter various motion brings, me and the different species of things. Man's inward motions and his thoughts to know, the good of government, and justice too. These were my studies then, and in these 3 consists the whole course of philosophy. Man, body, citizen, for there I do heap matter up, designing 3 books too. In the interim breaks forth a horrid war, injurious to my study, and a bar. In the year 1640 then, break out a sickness, whereof many men of learning, languishing, gave up their breath, at last, and yielded to impartial death. Wherewith, when seized, he reputed was the man that knew divine and human laws. The war's now hot, I dread to see it so. Therefore, to Paris, well beloved, I go. 2 years elapsed. I published in print my book De Que, the new matter in't, graffitied learned men, which was the cause it was translated, and with great applause, by several nations, and great scholars read, so that my name was famous and far spread. England in her sad pangs of war, and those commend it too, whom I do most oppose. But what's disadvantageous now, who would, though it be just, ever esteem it good? Then I 4 years spent to contrive which way to pen my book De Corpore, night and day, compare together each corporeal thing, Think whence the known changes of forms do spring. Inquire how I compel this Proteus may his cheats and artifices to display. About this time, Mercenus was, by name, a friar minorite, yet of great fame. Learned, wise, good, whose single cell might be preferred before an university. To him all persons brought whate'er they found, by learning, if new principle or ground, in clear and proper phrase, without the dress of gaudy rhetoric, pride, deceitfulness, which he imparts to the learned, who might there discuss them, or at leisure anywhere. Published some rare inventions, to the fame of their own author, with each author's name. About Mercenus, like an axis, here, each star wheeled round, as in its orb or sphere. England, Scotland, and Ireland was the stage of civil war, and with its 4 years, rage, harassed and wasted was. Perfidious fate exiled the good, and helped the profligate. Nay, Charles, the kingdom's heir, attended then, by a retinue of brave, noble men, to Paris came, in hope times might amend, and popular fury once be at an end. My book De Corpore then I designed, to write, all things being ready to my mind. But must desist. Such crimes and sufferings I will not impute unto the deity. First I resolved divine laws to fulfill. This by degrees, and carefully I will. My prince's studies I then waited on, but could not constantly attend my own. Then for 6 months was sick, but yet at length, though very weak, I did recover strength, and finished it in my own mother tongue, to be read for the good of old and young. The book at London printed was, and thence hath visited the neighboring nations since, was read by many a great and learned man, known by its dreadful name, Leviathan. This book contended with all kings, and they by any title, who bear royal sway. In the meantime, the kings sold by the Scot, murdered by the English, an eternal blot. King Charles at Paris, who did then reside, had rights to England's sceptre undenied. A rebel ruled the kingdom kept in awe, and ruled the giddy rabble without law, who boldly Parliament themselves did call, though but a poor handful of men in all. Bloodthirsty leeches, hating all that's good, glutted with innocent and noble blood. Down go the mitres, neither do we see that they establish the presbytery. The ambition of the stateliest clergymen did not at all prevail in England then. Hence many scholars to the king did go, expelled, sad, indigent, burthensome too. As yet my studies undisturbed were, and my grand climacteric passed 1 year. When that book was perused by knowing men, the gates of Janus' temple opened then, and they accused me to the king that I seemed to approve Cromwell's impiety, and countenance the worst of wickedness. This was believed, and I appeared no less than a grand enemy, so that I was for it banished both the king's presence and his court. Then I began on this to ruminate, on Dorislaus, and on Ascham's fate, and stood amazed, like a poor exile, encompassed with terror all the while. Nor could I blame the young king for his assent to those entrusted with his government. Then home I came, not sure of safety there, though I could not be safer anywhere. The wind, frost, snow sharp, with age grown gray, a plunging beast, and most unpleasant way. At London, lest I should appear a spy, unto the state myself I did apply. That done, I quietly retired to follow my study, as I used to do. A parliament so called did govern here. There was no prelate then, nor presbyter, nothing but arms and soldiers, one alone designed to rule, and Cromwell was that one. What royalist can there, or man alive, blame my defense on the king's prerogative? All men did scribble what they would, content and yielding to the present government. My book De Corpore through this liberty I wrote, which proved a constant war to me. The clergy at Leviathan repines, and both of them opposed were by divines. For whilst I did inveigh against papal pride, these, though prohibited, were not denied to appear in print. Against my Leviathan they rail, which made it read by many a man, and did confirm it the more. 'Tis hoped by me that it will last to all eternity. 'Twill be the rule of justice, and severe reproof of those that men ambitious are, the king's defense and guard, the people's good, and satisfaction read and understood. I, 2 years after, print a book to show how every reader may himself well know, where I teach ethics, the phantoms of sense, how the wise with spectres fearless may dispense. Published my book De Corpore withal, whose matter's wholly geometrical. With great applause, the algebrists then read Wallace his algebra now published. 100 years that geometric pest ago began, which did that age infest. The art of finding out the numbers sought, which Diophantus once and Geber taught. And then Vieta tells you that by this, each geometric problem solved is. Seville the Oxford reader did supply, Wallace with principles noble and high. That infinite had end, and finite should have parts, but yet those without end allowed. Both which opinions did enrage and scare all those who geometricasters were. This was enough to set me writing, who was then in years no less than 72, and in 6 dialogues I do inveigh against that new and geometric way. But to no purpose, great men it doth please, and thus the medicine yields to the disease. I printed then 2 treatises that stung the Bishop Bramhall in our mother tongue. The question at that time was, and is still, whether at God's or our own choice we will. And this was the result proceeding thence. He the schools followed. I made use of sense. 6 problems, not long after, published I. A tract but small, yet pure philosophy, wherein I teach how nature does cast down all weighty bodies and huge massy stone, how vapors are exhaled by the sun, how winds engender cold, when that is done, the reason of their levity, and how the barren clouds do hang on heaven's brow, how move, and when that they are pregnant grown, with moisture do in violent showers pour down. By what cement hard matter is conjoined, and how hard things grow soft, the cause do find, whence lightning, snow, ice do proceed, and thunder, breaking through watery clouds, even to wonder, how lodestones iron attract, how and which way they the Arctic and Antarctic poles obey, why from the sea unequal waves do glide, in the year or month each day a double tide, and why a ship doth sail against the wind. In that small treatise all these things you find, which may in time tread with applause the stage, as yet unblamed in such a carping age. The nature of the air I do descry in a small volume, and most pithily, composed on purpose for to obviate an inanific machine formed of late. Then, leaving physics, I return again to my beloved mathematics strain. For now the barbarous, bloody enemy had left the place where my estate did lie. The truth I could not teach, for none but fool may hope to instruct in their declaiming schools. Another book of principles I print. Nothing could be more clear than what was in't, whereby the nature of proportion is explained so fully, none can say amiss. Upon this subject most agreed that I, of every one, had gained the victory. Others seem in it to find errors store, but they are crazy grown, and I the more press upon them. Then do ascend the high and lofty summit of geometry. The circle's quadrature I publish then. The Pythian gods porisma teach all men. By a new method I thought to overcome, though not by the same reasons neither, some of the former demonstrations, but in vain. Mathematicians half-witted complain, who blush for to subscribe, but I'll not lose my labor any longer, thinking those indocile brutes will ever master sense, or with good literature ever dispense. Then my rosetum was put forth, which I stored with rare flowers of geometry. Wallace opposes, and I lost the day, as both divines and algebrists do say. The army then discamped, and gone thereby, Wallace of nothing thinks but victory, who having chosen an unpleasant field, which thick and troublesome deep roots did yield. Liking the combat, I turn, scatter quite, all in a moment, numbers infinite. These were my wars. What more have I to say? How rich am I? That is, how wise, I pray. No matter for my money or my land, if any ask that, let him understand. A small parcel of ground I had to show, my own inheritance, and let him know that this I on my brother did bestow, of small extent, but a most fertile ground, which did with store of bladed wheat abound, fit for a prince. And had not everything run cross, I had been counted a great king, when I the Civil War approaching find, and people led by every breath of wind. I sought than this a more commodious place, to live and study in, and that Paris was. Stocked with 500 pounds of coin before, I did desert or leave my native shore. To these 200 added, but withal, a weighty lasting grief did me befall. Thou art dead, Godolphin, who lovedst reason, true justice and peace. Soldier beloved, adieu. Twice 40 pounds, a yearly pension then, I from my own country received, and when King Charles restored was, 100 more was allowed me out of his private store. A noble gift. I slight reproaches, when I know I'm good, from other black-mouthed men. Content with this, desire no more pelf. Who but a madman lives beneath himself? Let my estate by yours computed be, and greater seem. If not, it's enough for me. My sums are small, and yet live happy so, richer than Croesus far, and Crassus too. Ferdusius, thou know'st my temper well, and those who read my works, and with thee dwell. My life and writings speak one congruous sense. Justice I teach, and justice reverence. None but the covetous we wicked call, for avarice can do no good at all. I've now completed my 84th year, and death approaching prompts me not to fear. Finis.